Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari ISKCON Guruvind Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Gaudanataya Mai Prashishi Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi. Reading from Nectar of Devotion, chapter entitled 5 Potent Forms of Devotional Service. In these statements about devotional service, sometimes it may appear that the results have been overestimated, but actually there is no overestimation. Some devotees, as revealed scriptures give evidence, have had immediate results by such association, although this is not possible for all. For example, the Kumaras immediately became devotees simply by smelling the incense in the temple. Bilvamanga Thakur simply heard about Krishna and then immediately gave up his beautiful girlfriend and started out for Mathura and Vrindavan, where he became a perfect Vaishnava. So these statements are not overestimations, nor are they stories. They are actual facts, but are true for certain devotees and do not necessarily apply to all. These descriptions, even if considered overestimations, must be taken as they are, in order to divert our attention from the fleeting material beauty to the eternal beauty of Krishna consciousness. And for a person who is already in contact with Krishna consciousness, the described results are not unusual. Some scholars argue that simply by following the principles of Varna and Ashram, one can gradually rise to the perfections reached by practical devotional service. But this argument is not accepted by the great authorities. Lord Chaitanya also condemned this idea while he was talking with Ramananda Roy about the gradual development of devotional service. He rejected the idea of the importance of Varnashram Dharma when it was put forward by Ramananda Roy. He said that this advancement of Varna and Ashram is merely external. There is a higher principle. In Bhagavad Gita, also the Lord says that one has to give up all other principles of elevation and take simply to the method of Krishna consciousness. That will help one in achieving the highest perfection of life. In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord himself says, one should execute the prescribed duties of Varna and Ashram as long as he has not developed spontaneous attachment for hearing about my pastimes and activities. In other words, the prescribed forms of Varna and Ashram are ritualistic ceremonies of religion intended for economic development, sense gratification, or salvation. All of these things are recommended for persons who have not developed Krishna consciousness. In fact, all such activities are recommended in the revealed scriptures only to bring one to the point of Krishna consciousness. But one who has already developed spontaneous attachment for Krishna does not require to execute the duties prescribed in the scriptures. Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 11, Text 31. Priya Swabhava Vihito Nirnam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Veda Drikpi Smrito Rajan Pritya Cheha Chasharmakrit Praya Swabhava Vihito Nirnam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Veda Drikpi Smrito Rajan Pritya Cheha Chasharmakrit Praya Swabhava Vihito Nirnam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Veda Drigmi Smrito Rajan Pritya Cheha Satya Sasharmakrit Swabhava Vihito Nirnam Rajan Chakamakrit Vaivshabhava Vihito Ninam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Nimati Vismito Rajan Vityasheha Sakamakrit Praya Swabhava Vihito Nam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Nidati Vismito Rajan Vityacheha Shachamakrit Praya Swabhava Vihito Ninam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Vedadrik Vismito Rajan Vityacheha Shachamakrit Praya Swabhava Vihito Ninam Dharmo Yuge Yuge Vedadrik Vismito Rajan Prityacheha Chasharmakrit. Translation. My dear King, Brahmanas well conversant in Vedic knowledge have given their verdict that in every age, yuga, the conduct of different sections of people according to the material modes of nature is auspicious both in this life and after death. Please repeat. My dear king, Brahmanas well conversant in Vedic knowledge have given their verdict that in every age, yuga, the conduct of different sections of people, according to their material modes of nature, is auspicious both in this life and after death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In Bhagavad Gita 3:35, it is said, Shreyan swadharma viguna paradharmat swanushtitat. It is better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. The Antyajas, the men of the lower classes, are accustomed to stealing, drinking, and illicit sex, but that is not considered sinful. For example, if a tiger kills a man, this is not sinful, but if a man kills another man, this is considered sinful, and the killer is hanged. What is a daily affair among the animals is a sinful act in human society. Thus, according to the symptoms, higher and lower sections of society, there are different varieties of occupational duties. According to the experts in Vedic knowledge, these duties are prescribed in terms of the age concerned. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramritan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistans Stapita Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, verse again. My dear king, Brahmanas well conversant in Vedic knowledge have given their verdict that in every age yuga, the conduct of different sections of people according to their material modes of nature is auspicious both in this life and after death. So, I was just wanting to do a recap of the chapter because it's Narada Muni is describing, well, Yudhishthira Maharaj inquires from Narada Muni about Varnashram, about different social orders in society, the perfect society. So he asks about Sanatan Dharma and he asks about Varnashram Dharma. So Sanatan Dharma is the eternal religion of human beings, which is Bhakti Yoga. It's a devotional service to Krishna. And also Varnashram Dharma is a social and the spiritual duties of human beings. So it's slightly different, like we just read in the Nectar of Devotion, that the main thing is Bhakti Yoga. Varnashrama is like it's like a ladder to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, but it's not the all in all. So in the first few verses, Narada Muni explains the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the principles of Sanatan Dharma, and he says that the purpose of Sanatan Dharma, the purpose of all these different activities, the eternal religion of all living entities is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And then he goes on to describe the 30 qualities of a human being, that which can satisfy Krishna. So there's a whole list of the 30 qualities like truthfulness, non-violence, celibacy, so many different qualities of human being. And then the first 21 qualities in the list, they're like the secondary qualities. They're like they assist in assistance in bhakti. So, for example, like mercy and tolerance, celibacy, these will assist. But the last 9 qualities are the core practices of direct devotional service. So like hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord, worshipping, offering obeisances, offering service to the Lord. So these are the primary qualities that satisfy the Lord. So these are the most important ones. The other ones are the help. If we are naturally a tolerant person or a merciful person or non-violent self, these help us in our practice of Bhakti Yoga. So, and then Narada Muni describes Varnashram Dharma. So he describes the 4 Varnas and ashrams. And so for a few verses, he explains the occupational duties of the 4 varnas. So he describes what is the qualities of Brahmana, what are the qualities of Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Can anyone remember what the duties of a Brahmana are? To teach is one of them. Anybody else remember the verse? Truthfulness. Sorry, this. So Brahmana has 6 occupational duties. They are studying the Vedas, worshipping the deity, giving charity, teaching, inducing others to worship the deity, and accepting gifts. They're compulsory for a Brahmana to perform. So, and the Kshatriya is anyone? Yeah. So Kshatriya's qualities are leadership, heroism, chivalry, but he can't accept charity. That's one of the things. A Kshatriya should not accept charity. He may perform other activities, but he's not. He shouldn't really accept charity, whereas a Brahmana does accept charity. And then the Vaishyas, they're the mercantile community, and there is agricultural trade and protection of cows. And the Shudras, their only duty is to accept a master from a higher social order and engage in his service. So these are all the different duties of the different varnas and ashrams. So then he goes on to describe emergency duties, that a lower person should not accept the occupational duties of those of a higher caste or higher varna. But we see that sometimes it's necessary emergency duties. For example, in the situation we're in just now, it's an emergency situation. So in Kali Yuga, where the majority of people are Shudra population. So therefore it's now time to train people up to become Brahmanas, because we haven't got naturally existing Brahmanas. So we have to, it's an emergency, so we have to train people to become Brahmanas, take up the work of spiritual progress. So the symptoms of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasis are all described in the Varnashram institution, but the ultimate aim of all of them is to think of the Supreme Lord, to serve Krishna, to think always of Krishna and to hear and chant. So this is actually the main purpose of all the Varnas and ashrams, to come to that point. And so then he goes on to describe the duties of a chaste wife, how she should serve her husband. And by that process, by following the footsteps of Lakshmi Devi and serving her husband, then she can go back to the spiritual world. And this section is described that the duties of the mixed classes and the result of occupational duties. So it's described here that one should act as per one's nature, and by doing so one can gradually elevate himself and give up those activities and become attain freedom from material activities and material desires. So it's like here it's described that this mixed class of people, they may be quite of a low class, but by performing their activities, eventually they'll come to the point of detesting what they're doing, and then take up devotional service or take up a higher spiritual life. And one should act as, per one's nature. For example, in Arjuna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he didn't want to continue fighting as a Kshatriya. He wanted to give it up. He wanted to try to excuse himself from fighting by taking up the occupation of a Brahmana, just go to the forest and meditate. And because he was trying to avoid fighting in the war. But Krishna was saying to him that, by nature you're a Kshatriya, so you have to do your duty, whether it's palatable or not, and that's your dharma. So, and Krishna in 333 in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying it's better to perform one's own duties, prescribed duties, than to follow another's path, because to follow another's path is dangerous. So the only real duty for Arjuna was to fight in the war, and that would have, and it's not like, because he was afraid he's committing some sinful acts by killing his relatives. But actually, for a Kshatriya to kill an enemy in a battle or an aggressor is not actually sinful, because they go to the heavenly planets for doing that. So what's considered sinful for one class of people is not considered sinful for another class. So here we see that these mixed classes of dog eaters, they can perform all these activities like meat eating, drinking, illicit sex and gambling, but it's not considered sinful for them because they're not on that level of a higher class. So, but for a higher class, for a Brahmana to do this, that would be considered sinful. For a Kshatriya to kill an enemy in a battle is not sinful, but for somebody else to do that would be sinful. Because generally killing is not good, but for a Kshatriya it's allowed. It's his duty to protect the citizens, Another example is for a brahmachari and a sannyasi, they shouldn't have intimate connection with ladies or women, whereas for a grihastha it's not a problem. He can have a relationship with his wife. So for a sannyasi and a brahmachari, that would be considered not good, like something sinful, whereas for a grihastha it's okay. So for different personalities, for different varnas and ashrams, is considered different. So it's like one man's food is another man's poison. So we can't say that everything, regard everybody on the same level in that way. The problems in the world is that because people are not following Varnashram Dharma, especially they're not following Sanatana Dharma, they're not even following Varnashram Dharma, then there's so much chaos in society because nobody really knows what they're supposed to be doing. They don't really know what their duties are. It's all mixed up. And Prabhupada actually said that 50% of his mission was not completed yet because it's the Varnashram. We wanted to establish some Varnashram because people are not on the level where they can take up spontaneous attachment for Krishna. It's not very easy for people just to give everything up and just devote their life to Krishna. So Prabhupada says the Vedic civilization is Varnashram Dharma. If the Varnashram Dharma is not properly protected, then there will be population who are called Varnashankara, mixed population. Unless the human society comes to the institution of Varnashram Dharma, they are not to be accepted as human society. The whole system was to gradually educate people to be elevated to the spiritual platform for understanding Krishna consciousness, Sanatana Dharma. So this gradual elevation of society is necessary because not everybody can just develop a spontaneous attachment for Krishna. They have to come to some sort of level where they're following some sort of varna and ashram, and then that gradually elevates them to the point of spontaneous attachment for Krishna. And Prabhupada also says that human civilization does not mean to improve the method of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, as it is going on now. The point of goal of life is reaching Krishna or Vishnu. That is being neglected. So we can see that human civilization, or so-called human civilization, is mainly trying to improve the 4 basic animal necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They're not actually realizing that human life is for something higher It's not just to live like animal society. And because it's being neglected, then human society is degraded to the point where it is now, where people are not sure what they're supposed to be doing with their life. It's very, very confusing. The grihastas and vanaprasthas, brahmacharis and sannyasis should endeavor together with their total energy to become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada says in one purport in Bhagavatam that this type of civilization is called Devi Varnashram. One of the objectives of the Krishna conscious movement is to establish this Devi Varnashram. So all the ashrams, the grihastha, vanaprastha, brahmacharya, should endeavor together with their total energy to become Krishna consciousness. So this is actually Devi Varnashram. Prabhupada wanted to establish this so that there could be some sort of, within the Krishna conscious movement, there would be some sort of Varnashram system where it could be, we could show people how to actually live with the Varnashram. Because unless we implement it in our society, we won't be able to show anybody else, the wider society, how Varnashram functions. Of course, there is still some sort of remnants of Varnashram in society, because it's naturally, because Krishna's created it, it can't be destroyed. So there's some sort of remnants, but it's all mixed, because you don't get pure Kshatriyas or pure Brahmanas much. It's all mixed, or pure Vaishyas or pure Shudras. Mainly people are Shudras. So they may have a few qualities of Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmana, but it's not pure. So that would take quite a while to bring society to that point, especially in Kali Yuga, because people are, they're lazy, misguided, unlucky, and always disturbed. So it's a big feat to actually accomplish Varnashram in Kali Yuga. But because Prabhupada introduced Krishna consciousness, then he's helped people to come to the point of devotional service, which is the main point of Varnashram, to come to the point of spiritual life. But as I say, because society is so degraded, they do need step-by-step gradual development to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, what kind of varna, what kind of ashram they should be in, so that there's some sort of system in society. Is there any questions or comments?
Allowed to earn anything? Isn't it? He's not allowed to make a living. You're not allowed to earn a wage. But he can give in charity. So how does he give in charity if he doesn't earn anything?
Because he accepts charity.
And so therefore they're always quite poor, because they accept in charity and they give in charity.
Yeah, basically a Brahmana is not supposed to be, hankering for wealth and money and positions and stuff. He's basically supposed to be teaching spiritual things to society. So he's not supposed to be, thinking about how he's going to make lots of money. And like a Vaishya would think, want to make lots of money, and Kshatriya would be thinking how to rule and control, So, but a Brahmana is not supposed to, pure Brahmanas,
Yeah, according to if a Brahmin is practicing the Brahminical qualities, then they'll be satisfied living that simple life.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada said that the devotees of ISKCON are more than Brahmins, didn't he?
Yeah.
If they actually follow it as he directed,
Because first we have to come to the Brahminical platform, and then we can become Vaishnavas. Because a Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana. So.
Okay, and then you were saying in Kali Yuga most are Sudras, but I believe that one of the main qualities of the Sudra is that they're obedient to the higher classes. But if you have no higher classes, then even those who would be Sudras don't even have the opportunity to be a Sudra, isn't it? Because they don't have higher classes to be obedient to. They're being obedient to, I guess, would this be why maybe the people in general are dissatisfied? Because they have no higher classes to look up to?
Or they don't want to be under the higher classes. They want to be free and do their own thing independently, and that's why also they're not satisfied, because in one sense a Shudra is actually, the qualities of Shudra are actually reasonably quite good, because they serve their master faithfully. They're also kind of clean and truthful. There's qualities of a Shudra still, and most of the population in Kali Yuga don't even come up to that level. People eating the cows, and then, it's like, because the Chandala is lower than a Shudra, isn't it? A dog eater, like he's outcast. So that's what the society is actually more like Chandalas, because they're actually eating the cow, which is worse than eating the dog. So it's actually so degraded that it's even
That's militia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Militia.
Yeah, so it's not actually even on the Shudra platform, unfortunately.
Shudra would be elevated. It's interesting because I remember it being brought up. I was in Mayapur once, one devotee was saying that some of the parents were upset because one of the teachers said that most of the children at the Gurukul were Sudras. And they were upset because everyone liked to think that their little Krishna Das or Radharani Dasi would be, a Brahmin. But the fact of the matter is, he was saying that most people in society are Sudras. It's only a small percentage that are Brahmins, and to try to put them in a Brahmin platform when their natural tendency is something else is creating an artificial situation. So for devotees whose lifestyle is very different from the lifestyle of a Vaishnava, then how can they find satisfaction in a lifestyle which is completely different from what they were used to?
Well, you mean devotees that come to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, especially if they've had no kind of Vedic upbringing.
Well,
And how do we find satisfaction in a lifestyle which is quite foreign and diametrically different from what we were used to?
well, we've all managed to come to a point of some sort of satisfaction, whoever's joined the movement. So the purification takes place, and because we see a higher goal in life, then we're not necessarily just trying to find some material happiness. So by devotional service, we find some sort of satisfaction, the pleasing the spiritual master. So we've actually been elevated to a very high level, considering where we're coming from, just by the practice of devotional service.
Yeah, so that's the proof that even though we're lower than any caste, we're finding satisfaction because we're on the spiritual platform, being brought on the spiritual platform, not an elevated material platform.
Yeah, because the whole point of Varnashram is to satisfy Krishna. So when we're performing devotional service and we're hearing and chanting, we're pleasing Krishna by that activity. So that's going to bring us satisfaction.
Okay, and final question. So I'm hogging it here, but so if I heard you rightly, you were saying that meat eating is not sinful for the lower classes, but just the question is, does that mean they have no reaction for it? Because I understand that the reaction to animal slaughter, global karma, is war. Or that they kill and then they'll have to be killed similarly in the future life. So just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about what you meant by, or was it actually you said it's not sinful for them?
Well, it says in the purport that among people of the lower classes, intermarriage and the drinking of wine are allowed, for these people do not recognize such conduct as sinful among themselves. So I'm not sure if that means that it's just among themselves, don't consider that sinful. Yeah, so they still do get a reaction, but because of their level of consciousness, they don't really see that as sinful. But for somebody who's like a Brahmana, they would consider this sinful. To do that they would get a reaction. So depending on your level of consciousness and what Varna or ashram you're on, you would get a sinful reaction. You will get more sinful reaction if you're in knowledge than somebody who's in ignorance, isn't it? So,
And that seems to be also even in the law system. If someone does something in full knowledge, rather than just out of passion or spur of the moment or in ignorance, then it seems that the punishment is more extreme or more severe. Seems to be a natural thing.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not even aware that it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, because like the example is given of a tiger. If a tiger kills a man, it's not considered sinful, but if a man kills a man, it's considered sinful. So if somebody who's in that consciousness, like an animal consciousness, that they're not really so elevated, then that's not considered so sinful. They may get some reaction, but it's not as big a reaction as somebody who's in knowledge, who knows what's better.
On that subject, it says in France, you can kill somebody. Like if you find your wife with a lover, then if you kill him, it's called a crime of passion. And you don't get convicted for it. And on Waprana's question about being satisfied, we were just studying in Shuddha Bhakti last night that there's semblances of devotion, 3 of them, before you become practice pure devotional service. There's Jnana Mai, Jnana Mishra, and Kevala Bhakti. And Shri Ramanuja was saying that when you start practicing devotional service, if you don't keep pushing forward, then you stagnate. And then you can even retrograde, you can even go back the way. So it's not that just because you've started the process, everything's fine now. Now you've got to watch that you don't become seduced to a semblance of pure devotional service. And I had a question about Devi Varnashram. Why wasn't Devi Varnashram established when people were more pious? And now in Kali Yuga, when we're the most degraded, we're being encouraged to not follow the normal Varnashram, but follow Devi Varnashram, which seems to be more elevated than even normal Varnashram.
Because to establish Varnashram in the whole world would be very difficult, I would say. Try to get the whole society to follow some sort of Varnashram is going to be difficult. At least devotees can follow some sort of Varnashram. It's more easier. I don't know. I mean, I don't know at what point Devi Varnashram.
I think I remember rightly. Then as each age comes, then one of the legs of the, or at least anyway, the beginning of Kali Yuga, then the bull of Dharma was being beaten, and the only principle was left was truthfulness, which was faltering. So that would mean that before these qualities were destroyed, then they would have been existing in society. So the Varnashram system was being practiced before, wasn't it? And Krishna explained that, he established that, but it becomes polluted when people want to maybe monopolize it or exploit others.
Yeah, it becomes degraded to the caste system. So the Varnashram was there, and it was like the purpose of the Varnashram was to spiritual life, was to satisfy Krishna. But then it gets degraded in Kali Yuga, it becomes the caste system, and then people are just exploiting, being a Brahmana or Kshatriya, exploiting the others. And so it becomes like by birth instead of by qualification, by quality. But the whole point of Varnashram is guna karma, so it's like by our quality and our work, that's how we know what Varna or ashram we're in. So I think it's an emergency situation just now, so that's why Prabhupada is saying, well, we need some sort of Varnashram. Maybe we can't convert the whole world into a perfect society, but at least the devotees can establish something so that there's some sort of semblance of like a blueprint of what Varnashram should be like,
And I believe also that Prabhupada says that the Krishna conscious movement is for the devotees, but Varnashram is for those outside, for gradual elevation.
Yeah, because like we read in the Nectar Devotion, it's like not everybody come to the point of spontaneous attachment, direct from from nothing to attachment. So there needs to be some gradual elevation to get to that point. And by knowing what Varna, but because people are you know, they're not going to be happy if they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing in their life. You know, they have to have some sort of understanding of what varna or ashram they're in, and when their material needs are being fulfilled, then they can peacefully practice spiritual life. But if their material needs are not being met and they're just trying to perform devotional service, then it's going to be disturbances. They're not going to be satisfied. So, you know, if somebody needs to be in a grihastha ashram and they're trying to be a, you know, a brahmacharya sannyasi, it's not going to work. So they need to understand honestly what ashram they should be in, what varna they should be. You know, somebody who's intellectual, they may not be wanting to do this service like somebody who's Vaishya or Shudra. You know, somebody who wants to teach, you know. So
I just wonder, in light of today's degraded situation in society, should we abolish monarchy, or would it be better to have some kind of semblance of kings?
well, it's already abolished, more or less. It's not much monarchy anyway. The world is all democracy. So it's just a show of monarchy, but they're not really monarchs in the sense that they're not representatives of God, and they're not ruling like proper Kshatriya rulers, you know.
Seems that even if they wanted to, they don't have the knowledge or the kind of a Brahmin types to guide them, because even with all good intentions, if they don't know what they're doing, then they're just going to be as confused as everyone else, even if they want to try to do something right.
Yeah,
unless they've got that direction.
Yeah, because there's no qualified brahmanas to direct the Kshatriyas, so the Kshatriyas are not really, they don't really know what they should be doing either, and they don't really follow any Kshatriya codes, you know. So basically, it's mainly Shudras, and they're trying to take the post of, you know, Kshatriya kings or government officials, whatever you call them.
It's funny how even though the monarchy isn't really up to standard, they don't really set a good example. In the newspapers, at least the low-class newspapers, practically every day the headline is about something with the royal family. It seems that the Shudras or the Malachas are fascinated by that, you know. So if we did have a proper monarchy, a proper king, you know, that was following the Brahmins, then that would work really well, because the Shudras are already tuned into wanting to, you know, see these people, and they see them as something more than just being humans, you know, something special with special qualities, even though they haven't got them.
Well, it depends how much they want to follow. You know, if a Kshatriya king introduces no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, how many people will want to follow that? There'll be an uproar in society, right? So they may not, because they're not on the level of wanting to accept such, you know, standards, then they're getting such rulers that are allowing all these things, because they're not capable of following. So, you know, to have a Yudhisthira Maharaj as a king, then you need to have a society that wants to follow such a great king.
If we look at Srila Prabhupada's example, when Prabhupada met leaders of society or leaders of state, then he wouldn't necessarily challenge them to remove them, but to improve them. It seemed to be Prabhupada's mood was always improve, don't remove, and rather to show them, you know, what should be the proper standard they should set, because people are looking up to them. And like Hochprabhu was saying, that people are reading newspapers every day about them, so it means that they're naturally they want to follow, and they hold leaders to account of even morals that they wouldn't follow themselves. They expect them to, you know, of course, well, that's hypocritical, but they expect a certain type of behaviour out of leaders, don't they?
Yeah.
It's just natural. Achariti Shrestha's.
It seems like in the modern age, the leaders are the pop stars, rock stars, and actors. They seem to be the people that people want to follow. So, you know.
And they're categorised as Sudras, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so they want to follow people like that. So those kind of people need to be in tune with Krishna consciousness so they can influence more people, I think, rather than because people are not so enamored by like the government heads, prime ministers, presidents so much as they are with these kind of personalities. So maybe they'll have a better, like George Harrison influenced so many people. You know, he wasn't a government head, but he influenced so many people to take up Krishna consciousness through his singing and through his music. So maybe, we don't know, but it just seems like people are more attracted. They're the role models are the actors and the, you know, rock stars and football. This is, you know, previously it was Kshatriya kings, but now it's like these kind of people because that's society now, you know. I don't know. Anything else? Yeah, so it's a difficult thing to establish Varnashram in today's world, but devotees have managed to establish some sort of ashrams, like we've got the Brahmachari ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas ashram. At least that's being established in Krishna conscious movement. And then the Varnas, it's not so clear, you know, who's to do what. Because Prabhupada says do the needful, so we're doing everything. We're doing the needful generally, you know. You know, it describes that Brahmanas, one of the occupation is that they can actually take up the occupation like a Vaishya and have land and grow things. That's also considered one of the qualities of a Brahmana. So it's not like you can't till the field, you know, because I'm a Brahmana, I can only do this. So, you know, even for Brahmanas, that was okay to do.
That would indicate that they also do cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah, because they need to know how to clean. That's one of the things of a Brahmana's cleanliness, you know. It should be externally, internally clean, right? Godliness is, you know, what's it called? Cleanliness is next to godliness. So unless you're clean, you can't be Brahmana. You know? So.
God goodness things that have to clean toilets.
Well, they live in a house, they have a toilet, they have to clean it. You know, it's just.
So if everyone's a Brahmin, then nobody cleans the toilet and nobody's clean. Then it's not Brahmin, is it? It's not Brahmin consciousness.
Yeah, it's just not, especially in this world today. That's like, I don't think you get pure Brahmanas that like they've got all the different qualities of a Brahmin. It's very rare to find such personalities. You know, they will be maybe mixed with other Varnas.
It seems like a misunderstanding because if a Brahmin is clean and he likes to be in a clean place naturally, then it means if he finds himself in a place which is unclean, he'll clean it. So it's Brahminical. It's like sometimes we used to go to a particular Hindu mandir, I wouldn't mention where, somewhere in the north of England, and they liked us coming there when we used to do the festivals there annually because the place got a real good cleaning up. Because in our mind, the entrance, the main hall, and especially the toilets were filthy, and we were thinking members of the public are coming in, so we'd clean everything so much, and they liked us coming so much because they got its annual spring clean.
Yeah, and when we went to cook in one of these Hindu mandirs, it was so filthy that you had to actually do a maha clean-up before you even started cooking. You know, so you can't cook in a dirty kitchen. It's just not Brahminical.
And the whole atmosphere was raised in consciousness, wasn't it? You could perceive that.
Yeah, so a Brahman is in the mode of goodness, is supposed to be. So if he's in, otherwise, if he just neglects that means he's in the mode of ignorance. Because if he sees something dirty and doesn't clean it, then he's also not in the mode of goodness.
Yeah, and I've seen people actually doing lots of exams and tests and doing lots of reading and then consider themselves a Brahmin, but they live in a pit, a pigsty, or they never empty a bin, and it just makes me think that, you can't be selective about these things. You have to imbibe the whole description of a Brahmin, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's also like some sort of pride that I'm a Brahmana. I can't do that,
Right.
but
But the Brahmin is free from pride, is he not?
yeah, the first quality of knowledge is humility, pridelessness.
So is it not, if I remember rightly, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks what they're doing is the all in all is a Sudra. So, if they think, by studying that they've become proud, is that not more of a kind of Sudra type mentality?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, externally they can maybe do these things, but maybe the internal consciousness is not so elevated. It's like,
And another point as well was because we're all very reasonably conversant with the books, so we tend to think that if we're conversant with the philosophy, that means that we've achieved some level of realization. But how we behave sometimes belies our beliefs. We believe it's good to be humble, but we don't behave in a humble way. So we could read things and think, oh, I believe that. And I definitely agree with that, but that doesn't mean that we've got the quality of cleanliness or humility. It just means we philosophically accepted it, but we haven't actually put it into practice.
yeah, yeah, because we need to come to the point of imbibing these qualities. It's not just words, but we have to actually, you may know the verses that of knowledge is humility, pride, but we actually have to imbibe these qualities to actually attract Krishna and to become, devoted. There's a nice example of a story. And I've just been reading this story of this devotee called Swapacha Valmiki. He's not the Valmiki of the Ramayana, but Swapacha was a dog, low caste dog eater from a dog eater family. And so Krishna told Yudhishthira Maharaj that to feed all the brahmanas and he had a conch that would automatically blow if everyone the sacrifice was everyone was satisfied. All the brahmanas were satisfied, and this yajna was successful. And then one day, when they did this, the conch didn't blow. I can't remember if it blew, if it was satisfied or not. Anyway, they're wondering. They fed all the brahmanas. Why is the sacrifice not successful? So Krishna told them that you didn't feed this one brahmana, or not brahmana, this one devotee. And they said, but we fed all the devotees, all the brahmanas. He says, well, this devotee is very humble and he won't come to your, when you're feeding all the brahmanas, he's not going to come. So you have to go there and invite him to come, personally. So so they found out who this person was. His name was Swapacha Valmiki. So then they went to his house and implored him to come, and he didn't want to come because he was a very humble devotee. But they asked him, please come and we'll feed you. And so he came, and Draupadi cooked all these nice preparations for him. And they fed the brahmana, and he mixed all the prasad together, all the different the rice, dal, sabji, everything. He mixed it all together, and then he ate it. And Draupadi was in her mind was thinking, that's really strange enough. Cooked all these nice preparations, he's mixed everything up and he's eating it. So she was a bit kind of upset. So then the conch still didn't blow. So Krishna explained that the reason was because Draupadi thought badly of him, that he was doing this. And because he was such a great devotee, Krishna, his humility was far greater than any of others, So although he wasn't born in a Brahmana family and he wasn't like well learned, but he had so much humility that it attracted Krishna's attention, And so it was just to show that although there were so many great devotees, the Pandavas are great devotees and everything, but this particular person was so humble that Krishna was saying, unless you feed him, then the sacrifice is not going to be successful. It's amazing. So we can see that, okay, there were so many other brahmanas and so many persons, but they didn't match this person's humility. So that actually is more attractive to Krishna than all other qualities. So we have to become that humble, and all this varnashram is to help us to satisfy Krishna, and Krishna is satisfied by humility, and be humble. And then we're actually qualified to get his association, go back to Godhead. So, I don't know if that's a suitable example, but I thought I'd just share that. I think you did a painting for Madhavananda Prabhu. Remember that? I vaguely remember you with the 5 Pandavas feeding the Swapacha Valmiki. Okay, I want to stop. Okay, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Iskon Guruvinda ki jai, Shaprapad ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari.
Her Grace Jagannatha Priya Devi Dasi ki